when you begin to look at that book, myself together. So all of us have to go through all the ways of life. We all have certain characters in us, and we got to get these things out of us to be able to be one with our Father God Allah. Islam. If there is anything lovely, if there is anything desirable, if there is anything within the reach of man that is worthy of praise, is it not knowledge? And yet, who is it that obtaineth it? The statesman proclaimeth that he have it. The ruler of the people claimeth the praise of it, but findeth the subject that he possesses it. Evil is not requisite to man, neither vice can be necessary to be tolerated. Yet how many evils are committed by the convenience of the laws? How many crimes committed by the decree of the council? But be wise, O rulers, and learn, O thou that art to command the nations. One crime authorized by thee is worse than escape of 10 from punishment. At this time, I'd like to recite the Moorish prayer that was handed down to us by our holy and illustrious prophet, Noble Jew Ali. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation by night and by day through his holy prophet, Jew Ali. Amen. At this time, I want to give praise to Allah. I want to give praise to Allah because he heard us crying in the wilderness. And hearing us crying in the wilderness, he sent us Noble Jew Ali to redeem us from our sinful ways and to warn us of the great wrath which is sure to come upon the earth. I'd like to give honor to the forerunner to the prophet Noble Jew Ali, Marcus Garvey. I'd like to give honor to Marcus Garvey because this brother had to have pure thoughts in order to pave the way for love. I'd like to give honor to all Moorish Americans here, there, and everywhere that's doing anything to better their conditions in uplifting fallen humanity. I'd like to give a special honor to Temple 2 here in Portland, Oregon, for our wills and our ways and our growth and our development. Because our lesson today is unity. But the lesson of unity that we're talking about is us becoming in unity with God. And the way that we become in unity with Allah is in thought. Because Jew Ali said through carnal thoughts and words and deeds, man tore himself away from Allah, debased himself. And last but not least, I like to give a special honor to Open Signal right here in Portland, Oregon, for giving Temple 2 the opportunity to be able to come before our Portland listening audience and tell you about the last prophet in these days and time, Prophet Noble Jew Ali. Now, a lot of us just beginning to hear about Noble Jew Ali, but Jew Ali was the first. Before Jew Ali, there was no Islam here in America. And I'm going to talk about that in my lessons this evening. So again, I'd like to give honor to Open Signal for giving us this opportunity to come by and teach. Now, we want to give honor to our two flags. One of them is the flag of our origin. The other is the flag of our birth. Now, when Noble Drew Ali came, he came with the methodology of something that we needed to hook us back up with the family of nations. And what was that? He brought us our nationality, and he brought us our divine creed. When you go downtown in any government in the United States and you look up on all of the buildings, the working buildings, what do you see? You see American flag. And the reason why you see the American flag, because this is a free national republic. And Noble Drew Ali told us that our national name was American and our national descent was Moorish. So we're talking about citizenship. So today, I have a lot of things that I want to talk about. But before I do anything, I want to go into a few books. I want to read from the Moorish Holy Quran. Then I'm going to read from the Holy Bible. Then I'm going to read from the Holy Quran. And before I read from each book, I'm going to say it's prayer. Because when you begin to talk about prayer, you're talking about your connection with the great God Allah, because you got to be still to hear. See, they say he leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. But you have to be still to hear when the Spirit is talking to you. So I want to read today from the book of the seven seals that none was able to open, and read from its sacred pages the messages of purity and love. And the chapter I want to read from today is chapter 17. I want to read chapter 17. I'd like to read from chapter 17 because I read it the last time we was on the show. And before I start talking about it, I want to let you know that it was just asked of me that I make a New Year's resolution. And I wanted to be known that the Moorish Americans don't make a New Year's resolution. And the reason why we don't make one, because there's not but 7 days in a year. When you say Monday, and once you get back to the Monday again, it's only 7, so you just keep repeating yourself. Physically, it's 365. Spiritually, it ain't but 7. 7 is the number of perfection man. So in our literature, when it was talking about John the Baptist, John the Baptist said, "Why need I wait? Let me go at once." So we have all these foes that we say that we're trying to overcome. We saying that when the new year get here, that we're going to make a New Year's resolution so we could overcome. But let me tell you something that we really need to overcome before I start reading this book. And what I'm going to talk about is right now, it's supposed to be a new year. But we know in February that the Chinese has their new year. And in 2 days, the Moorish Americans have our new year. Because our new year is not the same new year, just like the Chinese new year is not the same new year of America. And we know about the Gregorian calendar and the 7 other calendars that we could talk about. And the reason why I wanted to say that is because I'm listening to all of my brothers this morning and all of my sisters this morning in a meeting that I was in, and they was complaining about a lot of things. One of the things they was complaining about is Black Lives Matter. And what we need to understand is until we become of our own, it's always going to be conflict in this journey of the race. Because what we're doing, we're taking on the concepts and we're taking on the ideologies of somebody else. We say that we're conscious. We say that we're trying to get back to Africa. Then give back to Caesar what belonged to Caesar. Give back to Caesar his thought pattern. Give back to Caesar his holidays. Because until you worship under your own vine and fig tree, we're going to be going through what we're going through. So I want to read from chapter 17. And the reason why I want to read from chapter 17 again is because Noble Drew Ali asked us in our questionnaire, he said, where did he teach? Talking about Jesus. And it said Jesus taught in India, Africa, and Europe. And I want to repeat this because in chapter 17, it tells you where Jesus taught at in Europe. And in chapter 17, it said that he taught on a tower near Rome and he taught in Greece. So now, if Jesus taught on a tower near Rome, and if Jesus taught in Greece, those that he taught, if they grabbed onto him, took unto him, and start honoring the words, works, and deeds of him, then that puts you and me in a different position. Because when we begin to talk about the Spirit don't have no color. What color is the Spirit? You could be Japanese, Chinese, or Vietnamese, but we're talking about your spirit because that takes you on another level. Drew Ali gave us nationality, and Drew Ali gave us divine creed. So this evening, I'm going to talk about divine creed because we already know about nationality. Because if you don't have a nationality, you're no place on this earth. When the book says, honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be longer upon the earth land which the Lord thy God Allah has given thee. If you call yourself Negro, if you call yourself colored, or if you call yourself black, you are not honoring your father and your mother. And you youngsters gonna get away with it. You can get away with it, but the old timers can't get away with it because we remember that we didn't start calling ourselves black until 1968. Before I read the chapter again, I want to give honor to the second generation in the Moorish Science Temple of America. You always hear brothers and sisters that's real young always say that Noble Drew Ali said that the third and the fourth generation will see his works. And then I heard Sister Lynch-Bey teach a lesson profoundly talking about Genghis Khan and say Genghis Khan was here maybe 50 years and you don't hear anything about him anymore. In the Moorish Science Temple, each day, Noble Drew Ali is getting stronger, he's getting stronger, and he is getting stronger. And lets me know that he's going to be here to stay. But when I first joined the temple, you didn't hear too much about him. When somebody seen someone in affairs, they thought that he was a Shriner or elk. But we come to find out there was a Moorish American because the Moorish Americans are the one that wear fezzes that's not tied down to 33 and the third. Because I had a soda that I was bringing to the show, and I put it in the freezer at a 33 degrees. And I took it out, and it was frozen. But when you talk about 360, you're talking about man standing upright because 6 and 3 is 9, and we're talking about rising above the flesh. So you have to be in the spirit of 360. So now I read from this chapter. Jesus appears fully materialized before Apollo and the Silent Brotherhood in Greece. Appears to Claudia and Judith on a tower near Rome. Appears to the priest in the Egyptian temple of Heliopolis. Now, you see, he talked about Claudia and he talked about Judith. And he told Claudia and Judith to come on and walk with me upon the wave. Now, who are these people that call themselves Claudia and Judith? They're Europeans. They are Europeans and they are in Europe. They are on a tower near Rome and they're in Greece. And Jesus is teaching them. And Jesus is showing them how that they can walk on water. Now, you know, in the book it tells us that Jesus walked on water. But when it's talking about walking on water, it's talking about not sinking down to death. It's talking about walking above the things of this world. It's talking about walking above hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, theft, and everything that harms. And when you walk above those things, you are not sinking down into the things of the world. But we look at it and we see it from another perspective. Just like right now it's in social media about over in Spain, there was a nun. And this nun got pregnant. And the people there is looking for the bread man, or they're trying to find what priest that probably was the one that put this baby in this nun. But I remember Praise Yield Robert Page Hill, and he had a brother, Dr. Page Hill. When they was youngsters, they used to work in a monastery. And they worked in a monastery, and when they worked there, it was nothing but priests and nuns there. And they say to look down through the flat, and all they see are the biggest orgies in the world. So now, the nun, if you look at social medias on there, she's from Spain, and she got pregnant, and what did she say? She said, God, put the Holy Spirit inside of me. I talk about this all the time. And I knew it was coming. And then you have people complaining about the nun talking about God put the baby inside of her. But you the same one to celebrate Christmas. And it said that Joseph and Mary did not have no sexual relationship, and then the baby came. The same signs, the same nationality, the same people. So if it's all right with Jesus, and she is living according to the fruits of the Spirit, why it can't happen to her? Because it didn't happen to Jesus. See, let me tell you something else about Jesus, because he's my man. He looked just like me. Jesus' mother name was Mary. And Mary's mother name was Anna. But Anna had a husband. And her husband's name was Joachim. Wow. So now let's put Joachim right here for a minute, because we got to leave Mary, because it say Boaz by Ruth and Joseph by Mary, because the Spirit came through the woman in that era of time. In the other era of time, there was Boaz by Ruth. So now we got Joseph by Mary, Boaz by Ruth, and in the Masonic order, and all these special orders, they have pillars. And the two pillars that they have is Joachim and Boaz. Elizabeth, Mary, Joseph, Zacharias, that is your and my genealogy. So we need to start thinking, because Drew Ali told us that thought is the cause of it all, but you keep telling me that in the beginning was the word. And in the beginning was the thought, because man thought the word, because thought is the cause of it all. So I'm going to read one verse. I'm going to read two verses. I'm going to read from verse 24, and I'm going to read from verse 37. And verse 24 reads on this wise. He sent his son Jesus in human flesh to save the world. And as I have lifted from the watery grave, see, right here. See, we talking, you walked on water, but we talking about watery grave. It's right here in the book. So when we talk about watery grave, it means that you are sinking down to hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, theft, and everything that harm. And when you are walking on water, then you're living according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, because Allah is the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And if you live those principles, then you're one with your Father, God, Allah. I like to reiterate, through carnal thoughts and words and deeds, man tore himself away from Allah. He debased himself. Now, I'll read from verse 37, and it reads on this wise. It said, there is a holy ministry in death. The essence of the body cannot be quickened by holy breath until the fix is solved. The body must attenuate, and this is death. Now, we have a chapter 4 in our Moorish Holy Quran. And it say the ministry of death. So now we got a holy ministry of death, and we have a ministry in death. One is physical, and the one is spiritual. We already died. We have to be reborn again. And the way that we reborn again is change our thought pattern. If we change our thought pattern, this is how we become one with our Father, God, Allah. From the Moorish Holy Quran, divinely prepared by our holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Now I want to take you into another science. In Washington, D.C., we had a temple number 1. It was on George Avenue, 5764, across the street from Emily Playground. And during the holy days, during Sunday school, you look out front and you might see 1,000 cars. And all those cars that you see on in their car and on the mirror, they had an all-seeing eye. And before we could get this all-seeing eye, we was given the all-seeing eye like I have here for someone. It's inside here. And we had to read this. And when we read it, we had to write an essay on it. And one of the things that is in this book is Matthew's chapter 6, verse 22. Before I read it, I want to recite the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, holy is thy name, thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is done in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. So at this time, I'll read Matthew's chapter 6, verse 22. And verse 22 reads on this wise. The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye is single, the whole body shall be full of light. See, you have singular and you have plural. You can't straddle the fence. You can't serve two masters at the same time. So when your eye is singular, you ain't looking side by side, you're looking straight ahead. And this is what that eye represents, the all-seeing eye of Allah. And the way that you is in line with the all-seeing eye if you're living according to the fruits of the Spirit. If you're living according to the Kalima Shahada. If you're living according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, on which is the highest principles known to man. Now, I want to read from another book. Surah 18, chapter 18, in the moorish, in the Holy Quran of Mecca. Noble Drew Ali got this book established in this government, because when Noble Drew Ali founded the Moorish Science Temple of America, he got this book legal. But in our literature, Noble Drew Ali always talked to us about Noah, his Ark, and about Ham, Shem, and Japheth. Now we know the lesson of Ham, Shem, and Japheth because I taught it 1,000,000 times on this show. But what I need you to do and continue to do is go into the Holy Quran of chapter 18, and the title of this lesson is Gog and Magog. We're in the cave now, because who was in the cave? The title of this chapter is the cave. But when you look at the footnotes, you see words like Caucasian, Moscow, the Goth, the Visigoth, the Saxons, the Anglo-Saxons, and everything, Tubal-Cain, everything that come out of Europe. So I've always said when you talk about Japheth, you're talking about Gog and Magog, you're talking about a diabolical spirit. And that's what I want to talk about today, the spirit of Japheth. Because we just seen when I read from chapter 17, Jesus was in Europe teaching. So now when we begin to talk about a brotherhood, we're talking about those that's of the same spirit that you are of. It say, try the spirit, test the spirit, and see are you from the same spirit. And if you're not from the same spirit, then you ain't your brother. Because you meet your brother in the spirit, your brother and your sister in the spirit of truth. So every day, I hear people keep talking about we need unity. But before we can talk about unity, we first ourselves must become in unity with God. And how do we come in unity with God? By doing what God say do. What did God say do? He said, do what Drew Ali was instructed to bring to you and was instructed to bring to me. So I wanted to read that because this is the Holy Quran of Mecca. And in this book, the Holy Quran of Mecca, Surah 33, Ayat 40, say that Muhammad is the last and the seal of the prophet. So, brothers and men, why did Drew Ali tell us to read the Holy Quran? Why did he tell us to read the Bible when in the Holy Quran, Surah 33, say Muhammad is the last and the seal of the prophet. Well, in a lot of other books too, it say whenever a nation is in need for a prophet, God will send one. So he sent Drew Ali. So Prophet Muhammad was the last prophet in that era of time. But whenever a nation is in need for a prophet, Allah will send us one. And he sent Noble Drew Ali. He sent Noble Drew Ali that would save us from the wrath of Allah. When you call yourself Negro, colored, and black, it is a sin. It says it is a sin for any group of people to violate the national constitutional laws of a free national government and cling to the name and principles that allude to slavery. Man today is what his forefathers were yesterday. And there's no one who is able to change man from the decent nature of his mother and father unless his power extend beyond the great universal creator, Allah himself. So we talking about nationality, and we're going to keep on talking about nationality because that's the order of the day. And until we proclaim our nationality, we are outside of the constitutional fold. Let me explain it again. When I looked at the 14th and the 15th Amendment, it said that the 14th and 15th Amendment brought the North and South in unity, placing the Southerner, which was at that time without power, with the constitutional body of power. So we always saying that the 14th and the 15th Amendment freed you, and the 14th and 15th Amendment freed me. The 14th and 15th Amendment freed Jefferson Davis and Robert E. Lee because there was a civil war going on. We're dealing with a civil issue, though, not a human issue. We're dealing with a civil issue. And the reason why we're dealing with a civil issue is because a government within itself is at war with itself. And I like to reiterate, you have brothers and sisters from the same mother and the same father on different sides because they had a different understanding about slavery. And so when the slavery was over, when the North had won, when the blue coats had won and the gray coats had lost, then that meant that all of those that was a part of this civil war and lived in the South and who was brothers and sisters with the North, what had to take place was you had to do something for your brother and your sister to be able to be free again. So the 14th and 15th Amendment, like Girardi said, the 14th and 15th Amendment brought the North and South in unity, placing the Southerner, which was at that time without power, with the constitutional body of power. And at that time, 1865, the free national constitutional law that was in force since 1774 declared all men free and equal. And if all men are declared to be free and equal, since the Constitution has never been changed, there's no need for the application of the 14th and the 15th Amendment for the salvation of our people and citizens. I got a call this morning, and the brother was telling me that you got a lot of brothers, the ones over there with certain people, saying that in a little while, the moorish Americans, they ain't going to have to pay no rent. They ain't going to have to pay nothing. All that stuff going to be free. Why? If we the only nationality don't have to pay that, because we talking about reparation. That's why Drew Ali say put an Lynch-Bey on there. Now, you just can't get me to pay my rent every month. We got some things with compound interest that Drew Ali told us about. That's why it's important that you take off them Arabian names from you and put Lynch-Bey to your name, because when you put Lynch-Bey to your name, then you know you have a nationality, Moorish American. See? Because that Bey is your reparation. That ill is your reparation. This hooks you back up with the family of nations. That's what it does. Now, do I have to go down to the courthouse and take it? No. If that's the case, there wouldn't have been no need for the Moorish Science Temple of America. Noble Drew Ali founded the Moorish Science Temple of America for the uplifting of fallen humanity, and he did that by teaching us to be ourselves. The Moorish Science Temple of America is the only place that you could go, Asiatics, and learn the truth about yourself, because everybody else said that you Negro. Everybody else said you colored. Everybody else say you're black. And I remember before black was even, it's an adjective, but before black was even an organization in this government. When Noble Drew Ali came, there was no Negro, colored, and black. When Noble Drew Ali came, we was calling ourselves colored. Remember Martin Luther King? The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. And Drew Ali said colored is anything that has been painted, stained, varnished, or dyed. He said Negro is a name given to a river in West Africa by Moors because it contained black water. I'm going to get back into this, but I want to give my brother, McQueen Ill. You know, when I left to go to my daughter's wedding, I went to Baltimore. And when I went to Baltimore, I went to Huckle Bay's television show. I was honored because I like the spirit of him. We got Huckle Bay at Johnson Bay. We had one Johnson Bay up here. And I was talking to Davis Hill and Wimbley Hill over there, and they was telling me how great of a brother he is. They didn't have to tell me because I seen it. But I went to his show, and I took 3 brothers with me. I took Albert Hill, and I took McKirkland Bay, and I took Brother McQueen Hill. And it was an honor for me to do that because I had the opportunity to take all 3 of them past 762 West Baltimore Street. And 762 West Baltimore Street is where German Bay was living. And just for history, I wanted to take them brothers by there because McKirkland Bay and Albert Hill, I was honored back in 1880 to give these brothers a nationality card, and the nationality card came from that brother, German Bay. The reason why I wanted to take McQueen Ill by there is because this brother has been a thorn on my side ever since I got in the feds. And I honor him so much, I wanted the people to see who he was. I took him up Temple 71. And I took him up Temple 71 for a particular reason that people don't even understand today, and I'm going to explain it to you before I start talking about it. McQueen Hill was in Lawton. And when he was in Lawton, a lot of things transpired with him. And because they transpired, those that's up Temple 71 is a lot of the Moors that he went through things with. But because of what's taking place in the nation today, what I mean by that, it ain't but one prophet, one temple, and one nation. And a lot of brothers and sisters today is reading paperwork. I remember when Rashida Eel and I went up on George Avenue with one of the brothers up there, and they was reading a lot of paperwork, a lot of letters that was written back in 1931, 1932. And in our conversation, we was talking about Moorish Home number 1. We was talking about Moorish Home number 2. We was talking about the convention hall that has in Chicago, and the Cook Bay brother used to live right next door to the convention center, the convention hall. And a lot of brothers would say, well, why you keep giving this brother, Cook Bay, a lot of honor? The reason why I give Brother Cook Bay a lot of honor, not only because Noble Drew Ali took his fez off his head and put it on his head, is because he's the one that raised the brother that raised me, Sheikh Rufus German Bay. And it was Sheikh Rufus German Bay who showed the Cook Bay brothers the building over there on Sharp Street that the prophet got. And then they met back up in court when Loville took those Moors to court. But we're going to get into that. And I want to talk about this evening because it was in 1974, I think. And my brother that I love and have respect for, and he needs to get back up 71. Let me get back on this. The reason why he needs to get back on 71 is because I have a piece of paper right here. It has 1976 on it. I mean 2005. And it has a Grand Major Temple on it, Temple number 1. And it has Brother Braswell Bay, Supreme Grand Sheikh, removed from office for embezzlement of finance. And today, you have a lot of brothers and a lot of sisters that used to be with the grand body of C. Kirkman Bey, but because they can't do what they want to do, because they can't see things the way that they want to see them, then they run somewhere else and take on and build somewhere else when you know what the truth is. The reason why I'm saying that is it ain't but one prophet. And when I joined the temple, because I'm taking you back to 1974 now, and the reason why I couldn't take you before then to 72, but the reason why I'm going to take you to 1974 is because I was in Preparation Center number 7. And Preparation Center number 7 was in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. At that time, the grand body of C. Kirkman Bey was not in the monasteries yet. Because the book that Brother R. Loville wrote from the prophet, the oral statements, they wasn't in print yet. Or when he had what is known as the branch temple information, they wasn't in print yet because they wasn't inside the institutions yet. So who was inside there was Sister Christina Price Bey and Dr. R. German Bey. Now, you might have had a few of them on the state level, but we are talking about the federal level. Now, I'm the Grand Sheik. Young brother just coming out of Vietnam, post-traumatic stress, seeing Vietnamese all the time. So now we're in Lewisburg. Let me show you how good we was looking. See how we looking? This is Matthew Zeal. Matthew Zeal is one of the brothers that went to Chicago with Porter Hill to put the charter back up on the wall. We have Pleasant Bey right here. Pleasant Bey was still in his 20s. We have Sister Graham Bey, Brother Graham Bey. We have this brother here, the twins talk about him a lot because he in the law books down there in Virginia. And we was studying things like fasting, polarity. We were studying things that would put us in the world, but not of the world. We was in the monasteries, but we gave the things up that was about life. So now my man Nabal, what took place was he wrote a book called The Hill for Lawton and talking about subject matters in Washington, D.C. And when he was with me and we were riding together, he would tell me about everybody that was in the book. He would tell me about everybody that was beefing with him and they was going through things, but he never told me that I was in the book. I took him all the way to Baltimore. We went to eat here. We did all of that, talked to him on the telephone, but I'm glad that he didn't. But I want to explain my position because in the book, he said that he tried to come and talk to me, and I wouldn't listen to him, and I went with Brother Porter Hill. Porter Hill was a good brother. Porter Hill was a good brother. Jeremy Bey was a good brother. Matter of fact, here's a picture of both of them here. Porter Hill, North Star, and Brother Gordon Hill. The sister that you hear, Sister Saunders Bey, she got her position as Grand Sheik when this Mopaz phone. And here I am over here. And we was in a meeting. We was in a meeting with Porter Hill and them with Nabal and Cadillac, Raymond Smith Hill. These some good brothers. I like these brothers because they were strong, and these are the brothers that we needed in the Moorish side temple to bring the brothers in because everybody was following them. They were doing some things inside them Jones that most of the men that I thought was men wasn't men. When he got there, you had brothers that Big Bojo, Humai, and so they said, Lynch-Bey, if Cadillac come to you and ask you, is I'm a member of your temple, tell him yeah. And these was dudes, man, that put in a whole lot of work. So what transpired was when my man Nabal, my brother, when they got there, they was Moorish Americans. He was no longer a minister. He had minister papers. At first, German Bey gave them to him, but when you're not paying your dues, keeping in line with all necessities, and living according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, all those paperwork and all that stuff you got to give back. So now they come there. And you know from where they was at, and if you read his book, The House, you see the things that they was doing inside those institutions. And when he got there, see how we looking? Let me show you again how we looking. See there? See how we looking? We had this sister here been up here recently, and this brother came up here to see brother Kanye Bond there. This was back in the 70s, around 74, 75, 76. This back there. So when they come there, they came there with a different concept. They wanted to do the thing that was going on in his book. The book that he was talking about the thing that him and lacking them was doing in those books. But where we wasn't going for that because we were trying to better our conditions. We were trying to be able to go home and be a better husband, to be a better father, to be a better friend. We wasn't in there pressing. You know, these little young brothers, Chipper and all these little young brothers that come out of D.C., these dudes was taking these young brothers and making them out of something that they not instead of trying to raise these brothers up and teach them. So now they have a meeting with us because they want to come and say they Moorish Americans like they do everywhere around the country. And everywhere they go around the country, they go in where they go, they're going to come up in there, and they're going to take over the temple, and they're going to do all of that. But they fail to realize that I'm the Grand Sheik up here. And Act 2 of our Mufti law talk about guard, protect, and defend all temple possessions. So this is just some of the malls we had. Douglas Hill was here. We had Black Papa Evans Bey, and we had Charlie. We had a lot of different brothers that was men. And we wasn't going to go for that foolishness. This Friday I had the mall, brother in the temple, to look up Silverstein. He was one of those dudes that was an Iron Brotherhood. And they the one that killed this dude. Now I'm talking about it because this is my story. I could talk about it because it's my story. And if the Nabal wouldn't have created this condition, then I wouldn't give it to you. But I want to give you some lessons. This brother right here, Graham Bey, he is one of Braswell Bay's governors. They used to put the camel packs on his bed, on my bed, and Matthew that we had to, each morning we got up, we had to go and run and look for each other and walk together because them dudes were trying to get us. They were trying to get us so they could take over the temple and continue to do those things that they were doing. Nabal told me one time, if it wasn't for Malthus Bey, we'll come up in that tent. Don't use Malthus Bey for no excuse, brother, because we're living according to the prophet's law. We're trying to do things on the credit side of life. We're trying to learn to love instead of hate. We're trying to teach those things necessary to make our members better citizens. But now you got those that's out. Another thing, I had a big beef with a lot of people because as Grand Sheik, one of the things that you couldn't do is take your woman in that bathroom when you on a visit. Even though she weak and she's a freak, I'm going to make her get herself together because the members that was in our temple, you couldn't do those things because that's disrespectful to that woman and the children that you have. So everybody mad with me now. That nigga Lynch-Bey, man, we should kill him. I ain't dead yet, though. The reason why I'm not dead because they were doing it because and we was doing it for cause. Now, I'm not talking about my brother because he got to elevate and grow, but he put me in that book. And I got a daughter, 2 daughters, and I got a nephew. And my daughter and nephew going to read that book. I put 100 people on the book. I said, buy it. They said, Lynch-Bey, why you keep telling us to buy this book and that champion said that about you in here? So inside these institutes, and then some of the people that went, man, I'm telling you, I know about 10 or 15 brothers was walking around in jail with makeup on their face, wearing rouges, and when they go to visiting room, they was men, and when they got out, they was men again. But these dudes had these dudes on a different plane. And the bad part about it, they was misrepresenting Jew Ali. If you going around doing things that's diametrically opposed to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, then it's disrespectful to the prophet Noble Jew Ali, and the law of karma is going to catch you. So now I'm going to speak on something else, too, and I'm going to get back. Then, years later, I'm still in now. I was in for 30 years. Years later, I wind up in Petersburg. And when I get to Petersburg, then what takes place? Cadillac come to Petersburg. And when you come to Petersburg, you say, Lynch-Bey, I done overcame that stuff we went through in Lynchburg. You know, a lot of elevated my spirit, etc. So I said, okay. So I said, Porter, this dude might be all right. We need to get with him and try to help his brother because he's strong, physically, and he can help bring a lot of people in. He said, okay. We're at a bus. We're at a bus coming to Petersburg called Big Bertha. We named it Big Bertha because on Moorish Home #1, they had a big red truck called Big Bertha, and we just take food around and feed all the Moors across the country. See, that's not in that paperwork. See, and when I say we have Moorish Home #1 and Moorish Home #2, you talking about Sister, this sister or Sister Tiggsville. They called a lot of names, but Sister Tiggsville lived on Moorish Home #2. She was a part of the Grand Bay of C. Kirkland Bay. And German Bay and Loveville taught me that the reason why the Supreme Grand Council was abolished is because the European went to Mill and went to the prophet and offered him some money, and the prophet made Mill admit to that when they came to the chamber, so he disbanded the Grand Council. But now that Jones Bay and them DC dudes, see, here's what I messed up to. Everywhere I go around the country, everybody talking bad about them dudes over there in D.C. on Temple 71, but you talking about my homeboy. You talking about those that I know what they're doing, and you still in the game. You still doing things that's diametrically opposed. Yeah, they done went through certain things, but when they was here, wasn't nobody else. Wasn't no Millie Ill. That brother Braswell Bay, I remember when him and Sister Saunders Bay was going to 957 East 75th Street with Sister Christina Price Bay. At that time, wasn't no Millie. All them dudes under the ground hiding. You didn't know nothing about none of them. So today, you hear about them. And every time I meet somebody, they got something bad to say about them brothers who kept the doors open. And now you got people running here and there, and that's why we can't build nothing here in Portland, Oregon, because you got Pleasant Bay, he my man. But he know good and well Drew all these flags is that flag right there. The same thing with Bratton Bay and Braswell Bay and all those brothers before you, because when I joined the Moorish Science Temple, it was no going down into the courthouse and getting no paperwork and charging these brothers and these sisters all this money for this paperwork. The reason why, because Drew Ali's wife was still living. The Cook Bays was still living. A lot of other brothers and sisters with Drew Ali was still living. And they were still living. They had a nationality card. And the nationality card that they got from Drew Ali. And they told me in my ear, they said it won't be no need for the Moorish Science Temple of America if we had to go down to some courthouse and get some kind of paperwork. So I'm telling you from what I know. I've been around. That's me right here, the youngest brother in the picture. But I'm the Grand Sheik. And all these brothers and sisters, there's a lot of them in this picture, they done went over there. They done did so much dirt over there, got mad over there, and now they running somewhere else to try to build. That's not what it's about. We're talking about the Spirit of God. Now let me tell you what happened in Petersburg. I got to Petersburg and looked like Lack was trying to do good, and he had to bring his girlfriend down on the bus. So when you bring his girlfriend down on the bus, you cannot take her in the bathroom. See, I come up with some powerful dudes. This dude, Bama, came out of Virginia, and I remember Roy Thomas told me something about him because he was close to Papa Elton, both of them red bones, two brothers. But, man. So I get a call one day. Lynch-Bey, report to Chaplain Jeskew. So I went over to the chaplain's office. And when I got over there, Cadillac and Daniel Dyson come out of Detroit Park, and they call him Toby. And when I walk in the door, Toby say, Lynch-Bey, I'm no longer your chief mufti. I'm a Cadillac's chief mufti now. And I said, man, Poindexter Bay put me with you, and you acting like that. And I said, I know what it is. The bus come down here, and I won't allow you to go up into your woman in that bathroom. I'm not going to allow that. See, and I can talk like this because this is me. Everybody that I'm associated with talk this same way, but because he done win in all these dudes, I'm talking about dudes that you on the boxing team and Rome. This dude did all that to them, and this was the life of the institution. So now, They called me over there. And when they called me over there, he wanted to get another temple. He said, we're going to get our own temple now. You want to get your own temple so you could do what you want to do. You know, when you just got out the hole, and I was the one that went through the administration to get you out. But all them dudes out of D.C., all them dudes left me and went over there with him because the prophet said, where you think you much strong, you much weak. See? But the only reason why, because we done pulled swords and all that, the only reason why they didn't come up in the temple and take the temple over, because you see this brother right here with the white jacket on? Brother right here too with the white jacket on. When you see them pictures when the Moors riding in the street, all these brothers part of the national security force, come out of Vietnam. We talking about protecting the prophet and the temple. And all these gangsters that want to just use the prophet and play with the prophet, we wasn't going for that foolishness. So the other day, I get some calls and say that my brother was talking about I was weak because I was with these other temples. Man, I was strong because I didn't mess with gumps. I didn't press nobody else. And I did what Jew Ali say do, and I led a good temple. I remember one time a brother, some people beat him up. And they beat him up, man, knots all on his head because he went in there and robbed somebody's locker and went in their locker, and all the Moors talking about, let's go get him. Now, you're not going to go get him because that don't have nothing to do with us. That don't have nothing to do with the Moorish Science Temple. And the reason why I don't have nothing to do with the Moorish Science Temple, because you're stealing. It is less evil in the sight of Allah to steal than to betray. So stealing is a sin, and it is a sin for any group of people. So that's part of my story. So all week long, I just wanted to share that because that guy Silverstein, see, they killed that, the Europeans, they killed that brother Lack. Because see, when you're in certain places and you want to go out to the yard, to rec yard and go out, and what you do, you have to sign a request, and then they'll get both of the requests and let you out. Man, them Europeans let 3 armed brotherhoods out and let Smith Eel out, and Smith Eel, man, was handcuffed, and the people on the tier was saying, man, it went for about 5 minutes. He fought them 3 dudes off for about 5 minutes before they killed him. See, but the part is that when I seen him going back to Mern, I said, that brother gonna die. I said, if he would listen to me and stop trying to be somebody that he's not, because you got 2 cells. And you got to crush one under that feet and tame the other to that purpose. So I wanted to share that because a lot of sisters, even in the meeting we was in this morning, she wanted to know that her husband is in the joint. He took on the name of Yusef. And he got one of them names that she going through change because she don't know how to deal with. That's what you need to do. When you see your husband or your brother or your friend inside them conditions, you need to sit down with them and see what they are about, what this religion is. So y'all can exchange it together, learn together, grow from it together, and then you could teach. Because, see, both of us got lessons to teach. All times are not alike. Sometimes women teach best. The book of Ecclesiastes say everything has a season. It says sometimes women teach best. So I was just thinking about Lynch-Bey when I was with him. And Nabal, McQueen here, he went over to Temple 1 in Washington, D.C., and he didn't go back over there because them moles over there, one of the moles over there talked to him like he was a chump. And that's how the mole felt. He got to realize that we all men. But the Moorish Science Temple of America have suffered much and severely in the past through our words, our works, and our deeds. You know, just like right now, right here in Portland. You can go by some strip clubs tonight, and you can see some Eels and Bays coming out of that with the European girls. You can see that. You can't bring that over Temple 2, though. We're not going to do that over here. We're doing something else over here. We're doing something what Jew Ali say do. We're trying to learn to love instead of hate. We're trying to come one with our Father God Allah, and you do that by living the book. See, we trying to walk with God. So inside them places, that was the best lesson that I could have learned in my life. I went through trials and tribulations. I done seen young brothers, you know, go through things. I done went past sales and seen big Mughal Jai and big Hobobo. They're in the wrong position. They're in the same position that the boy's supposed to be in. And then they look at me, man, I ain't gonna say nothing. Same thing Lonnie Blue said about that other guy. He said, man, he seen me, and I thought he would try to kill me, but he didn't say nothing. So the point I'm making is, the lesson is self. And we all need to get into ourself. Stop worrying about your brother. Stop worrying about somebody else's brother. Get into yourself and love God for yourself. Try to be a better person. Trying to learn to love instead of hate. And this is what we need to do. That's part of my story. And man, I'm telling you, if it wasn't because of a murder beef, them dudes would have moved in on us. Because we wouldn't let them up in there because they were doing things that's diametrically opposed to what God said do. So I just wanted to share that today, coming back on this show, because I have been getting some calls about that, and I let the brother know that I was going to mention that. But man, get up Temple 71 where you belong. They need you up there because those brothers up there have been through all ways of life, and they're trying to do the prophet's work. I hear all that stuff all across the country, and it's really disrespectful because what you need to know ain't but one prophet, one temple, and one nation. And when somebody tell you that somebody else ain't doing this or somebody ain't doing that, then it's you that ain't doing that, because you know why? If you can't say nothing good, don't say nothing at all. So in conclusion, I like to say we all need to learn to love instead of hate. And I want to give honor to that dude over there, that brother Lynch-Bey. You know, not from a vain perspective. I want to give honor to him for the trials and tribulations that he overcame and a greater work that is ahead for him to do. So in conclusion, I recite the Moorish American prayer. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation by night and by day through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. Drew Ali came for me. He had me on his mind. And I'm so glad he came for me. 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 Drew Ali prayed for me. He had me on his mind. And I'm so glad he prayed for me. 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 Drew Ali said